There is a kind of tiredness that sleep does not fix. It sits deeper than the body and deeper than ordinary stress. Many people think they are just overwhelmed, burned out, or emotionally drained, but what they are really feeling is the exhaustion of carrying a false self for too long. Beneath the noise, the pressure, and the endless mental motion, something in them knows it was made for more than survival. The modern world trains you to identify with what is shallow and temporary. It tells you that you are your image, your productivity, your wounds, your opinions, your social role, your fear, your story. It hands you a manufactured self and then teaches you to defend it like your life depends on it. That is why so many people look functional on the outside while feeling spiritually starved within. This is where the ego becomes a prison. Not because individuality is evil, but because the defensive self becomes rigid and starts impersonating your essence. It builds walls out of pain, comparison, ambition, resentment, and control. It learns how to keep moving, keep speaking, keep performing, while the deeper being within grows more distant and more forgotten. That is why spiritual exhaustion feels so strange. You can be doing everything the world told you to do and still feel empty. You can have information, entertainment, and constant access to other people's thoughts and still feel cut off from what is real. The world calls this normal. It is not normal. It is fragmentation mistaken for life. If you want the full map of how consciousness becomes fragmented, how the soul descends into layers of confusion, and how it rises again through remembrance, read my book, The Gnostic Hierarchy of Consciousness, The Hidden Architecture of the Soul. It goes much deeper into the hidden structure behind everything we are opening in this video. The truth is severe but freeing. Much of what you call yourself is conditioning. Much of what you defend is inherited distortion. Much of what you fear losing was never truly you. That does not mean your pain is fake. It means your pain became part of a survival costume, and now that costume is suffocating the light it was once trying to protect. This is why the path to Barbelo begins with honesty. Beneath the noise, beneath the armor, and beneath the endless internal commentary, there is a more ancient presence waiting for you. A luminous silence, a first tenderness, a living mirror of divine remembrance. So begin here with one simple stillness practice. Notice the gap before you react. Before you check the phone, answer the message, or chase the next distraction, pause. Take one slow breath and feel the space between impulse and action. That small space is sacred. It is the first crack in the shell, and through that crack, the light begins to return. Barbelo is not merely a character from an old scripture or a symbol to admire from a distance. She is the first luminous thought of the unknowable source, the first holy reflection of the monad, the first mirror in which the infinite beheld itself without becoming divided. Before doctrine, before religion, before systems of control hardened around mystery, there was this radiance, a living field of divine awareness, vast, maternal, intelligent, and unstained by the noise of the world. Most people have been taught to think of the divine in rigid masculine terms: lawgiver, judge, ruler, architect, authority. But the oldest currents of hidden wisdom speak of something far more subtle and complete. They speak of a primal spaciousness through which divine life first became knowable. Not a lesser force, not a decorative feminine add-on, but the original luminous receptivity through which the hidden fullness of source could shine without fracture. That is Barbelo. She is called the first thought because she is the first emanation of self-knowing. The eye cannot see itself without a mirror. In the same way, the One did not become less by expressing itself through Barbelo. It became intimate. It became relational without falling into separation. Barbelo is that first holy mirror, not outside the monad, not other than the monad, but the first radiant field in which divine consciousness could behold its own beauty. This is why the soul responds so deeply to her, even if it does not know her name. What many people call longing, homesickness, or spiritual ache is often the memory of this first intimacy. It is the ache for the divine mirror, the ache to be held again in a field where nothing has to be performed, defended, earned, or explained. Barbelo is remembered less through logic than through resonance. The tragedy of modern life is that it trains people to distrust receptivity. It treats stillness like weakness, softness like naivety, surrender like defeat. But Barbelo reveals a deeper law. Receptivity is not passivity. It is the condition in which revelation becomes possible. The clenched self cannot receive the infinite. The defended mind cannot enter the mother field. Control blocks what surrender allows. So if you are hearing this and something in you is softening, that is not sentimentality. That is recognition. Something older than your personality is responding. Something beneath your accumulated identity remembers the architecture of original light. Barbelo is not an idea you adopt. She is a frequency you begin to remember when the noise finally starts to thin. To approach her, you do not need theatrical rituals or borrowed spiritual language. You need sincerity, stillness, and a willingness to stop forcing. Let the forehead soften. Let the jaw unclench. Let the eyes rest instead of search. The Divine Mother is not reached through aggression. She is entered through receptive awareness. The intellect may point toward her, but only surrender lets her be felt. So begin this chapter's practice with a softened gaze. Let your eyes rest gently, not fixed on anything, not hunting for insight. Breathe slowly and inwardly say, I do not chase the light, I allow it. Sit with that for a moment. Let the nervous system hear it. Let the soul hear it. Because the first thought is not far away. It is waiting beneath the violence of effort. The deepest lie of this world is not that you are flawed. It is that you are cut off. That you are a lonely fragment moving through a dead universe, trying to invent meaning while slowly losing energy. This lie sits underneath much of modern anxiety, despair, numbness, and spiritual confusion. It teaches the soul to interpret its homesickness as personal failure instead of cosmic amnesia. You feel separate because consciousness entered multiplicity. The One did not remain hidden in featureless perfection. It expressed itself through countless perspectives, countless lives, countless eyes. This was not a mistake. It was part of the mystery. The infinite desired intimacy, and intimacy requires relation. The eye cannot know itself without some form of reflection. The soul became one of those reflections. Individuality, then, is not the problem. Your point of view is not a cosmic accident. Your uniqueness is not a curse. The problem begins when the lens forgets the light passing through it. The problem begins when identity hardens into total identification, when the temporary self claims to be the ultimate self, when the mask forgets the face and begins ruling in its place. This is why many people feel such strange grief without knowing why. part of them senses that life is more than survival, reaction, and social repetition. Part of them knows they were not born merely to manage stress inside a machine, but because they have been trained to seek outside what can only be remembered within, the longing remains unresolved. They reach for noise when what they need is return. Modern life intensifies this separation by scattering awareness across endless surfaces. Notifications, arguments, identities, performances, addictions, comparisons, anxieties. Each one takes a small fragment of attention. Eventually, the soul's light is still present, but its expression is fragmented. A person is not empty. They are dispersed. Their consciousness is spread across too many false mirrors to feel its own center. What is called awakening often begins when this dispersed condition becomes unbearable. The old distractions stop working. The old ambitions lose their glamour. The old self no longer feels convincing. This is painful, but it is sacred. It means the soul is beginning to reject fragmentation. It means the deeper being is no longer willing to live on crumbs when it remembers a feast. The practice here is simple and direct. Place your hand over your heart and breathe slowly. As you inhale, feel the chest rise without force. As you exhale, inwardly say, "I am not cut off. I am carried within the light." Do not rush, do not perform. Just let the body hear a truth the mind has forgotten. Sometimes return begins with one honest breath. You are not trying to become divine. You are remembering that your life was always held inside a greater field of divine awareness. Separation is real as an experience, but not as the deepest truth. The spark may feel buried. It may feel dim. It may feel neglected. But it is not gone. And the moment you stop worshipping the illusion of isolation, the path home begins to open. The intellect is a beautiful instrument, but it becomes a prison when it tries to rule realms it was never built to contain. This is one of the great traps of modern spirituality. People gather theories, systems, correspondences, secret teachings, and sacred language, but never actually surrender into the living presence those teachings were meant to point toward. They become experts at explaining the doorway while remaining terrified to walk through it. The mind loves control because control feels safe. It loves categories, conclusions, definitions, and elegant structures. There is nothing wrong with that. The problem is that primordial truth does not fit neatly inside conceptual boxes. Barbelo is not an object for analysis. She is a field of encounter. The mind can gesture toward her. It cannot possess her. And many seekers remain exhausted because they are trying to master what can only be received. This is why some of the most informed people are still spiritually starving. They know the terms, they know the traditions, they know the cosmologies, but knowledge has become a shield. Analysis has become a defense against vulnerability. They are not seeking only truth. They are seeking control over truth. And the Divine Mother does not enter on those terms. There comes a point where the intellect must become humble enough to kneel, not because thought is evil, but because thought is downstream from a deeper current. The silence before thought is older than language. The awareness behind thought is wider than logic. If you never leave the mind's surface, you will mistake descriptions of water for the experience of immersion. This does not mean becoming gullible or abandoning discernment. False spirituality thrives where discernment is absent. But real discernment is not the same as compulsive mental grip. Discernment is clear, quiet, steady, Mental grip is noisy, anxious, self-protective. One opens the way, the other keeps the gate locked while pretending to guard wisdom. So ask yourself with honesty, are you actually seeking contact with the sacred, or are you using spirituality to strengthen identity? Are you becoming softer, clearer, more grounded, more truthful, or are you simply decorating the ego with luminous vocabulary? These are hard questions, but they matter. Because ego can wear sacred language just as easily as it wears status and ambition. The practice here is the exhale of release. Breathe in gently. Then let the exhale be longer than the inhale and silently say, I release the need to grasp. Again, inhale softly. Exhale slowly. I release the need to grasp. Let the breath teach the nervous system what the soul has been waiting to learn. Surrender is not collapse. It is alignment. The mind can be an honored servant on this path, but it must stop pretending to be the throne. Let it bow. Let it soften. Let it become quiet enough to witness what it cannot produce, because the light you seek does not arrive through mental conquest. It arrives when the architecture of control loosens and something older, wiser, and more tender is finally allowed to enter. Surrender is one of the most abused words in spiritual language because people hear it through the ears of fear. They imagine defeat, passivity, weakness, loss of self. But true surrender is none of those things. It is the end of false control. It is the moment the clenched personality stops trying to be the source of its own salvation. It is the opening through which grace can finally move. To surrender into Barbelo is to stop relating to life as a frightened manager of fragments. It is to become receptive to a deeper current already moving beneath thought, beneath emotion, beneath identity. You are not manufacturing divine contact. You are ceasing to obstruct it. The luminous stream was not absent. The false self was just too contracted to feel it. This is why so many people remain spiritually dry while constantly searching. Their search is still built on will, effort, anxiety, and hidden self-importance. They are trying to attain what must be received. They are still secretly dictating the terms on which transformation is allowed to arrive. Barbelo waits patiently beyond this habit of force. She enters where consent becomes sincere. Breath is one of the gentlest bridges into this surrender because breath cannot be controlled forever without distortion. At some point it teaches you to receive. The inhale comes as gift. The exhale becomes offering. The rhythm itself reveals an ancient law. Life enters, life leaves, and peace emerges when you stop tightening against the current. The body already knows how to participate in trust before the mind agrees. Imagine now that a radiant stream of soft living light is descending through the crown of your head. It does not pierce, it does not invade. It pours like warmth, like intelligent gentleness, like a remembrance older than language. Let it move down through the throat, into the chest, and settle in the heart. Do not force an image. Just allow the possibility of being filled by something good. This is not fantasy. It is training in receptivity. Much of the modern self is conditioned to brace, doubt, and contract. That conditioning must be unwound. The nervous system must be shown that divine intimacy is not a threat. Barbelo does not arrive with violence. She restores what violence shattered. She enters like light reclaiming a room that had forgotten windows. Use this chapter's practice with your breath. Inhale and inwardly say, I receive the light. Exhale and say, I surrender what I am not. Inhale, I receive the light. Exhale, I surrender what I am not. Let the repetition become simple. Let it become soft. Let it bypass performance and settle into sincerity. The soul recognizes this language even when the mind is still catching up. Surrender is not the loss of your being. It is the loss of what distorts your being. It is not the death of what is true in you. It is the death of everything false that has been crowding truth out. And when that false weight begins to loosen, even slightly, the luminous stream becomes easier to feel. Not because Barbelo has moved closer, but because you have finally stopped resisting what was always trying to find you. Silence is feared by a world built on noise. Most people do not realize how deeply they avoid it. They may call it boredom, emptiness, loneliness, unproductiveness, or wasted time, but beneath those labels is something simpler. Silence threatens illusion. The false self depends on constant motion, constant language, constant reinforcement. When true silence enters, the performance begins to tremble. But primordial silence is not dead space. It is not blankness. It is not the absence of life. It is saturated presence. It is the womb before formation, the stillness before thought, the field in which reality can arise. The silence of the monad is not cold emptiness. It is fullness too whole for noise. Barbelo emerges as the first luminous reflection within that immeasurable quiet. This is why stillness is so powerful. It does not merely calm you, it reveals you. In real silence, all the secondary identities begin to lose their authority. The rushing mind is seen instead of obeyed. Emotional turbulence is felt instead of worshipped. Compulsion weakens. The one who believed itself to be the center of everything is gently moved aside, and in that movement, something deeper becomes visible. The age we live in is addicted to stimulation because stimulation prevents this revelation. Endless input keeps people externally occupied and internally estranged. It gives the nervous system no chance to reset and the soul no chance to speak. Many are not living from essence at all. They are living from interruption. Their consciousness has been trained into fragmentation so thoroughly that silence feels unnatural. But what feels unnatural is often what has been forgotten, not what is false. When you sit long enough in honest stillness, something remarkable begins to happen. The fear does not vanish all at once, but it stops owning the room. Thought continues, but it loses its throne. Beneath the movement, a wider presence is felt, a listening, a depth, a quiet intelligence that does not strain to exist. This is where people begin sensing that the sacred was never absent. It was hidden beneath the volume of a life lived outward. The Divine Mother does not always arrive as vision or ecstasy. Often she arrives as unforced interior spaciousness, as a relief too deep for words, as the sudden realization that beneath the tension, you were being held all along. Try the practice of inner listening. Sit still and do not seek a message. Do not hunt for imagery. Do not demand experience. Simply listen beneath thought, as if there were a deeper atmosphere behind all mental noise. Rest there for a few breaths. If thought comes, let it pass. Return to listening. The point is not to achieve something, it is to become available. The silence before the world is not somewhere else. It is underneath your life this very moment, under the noise, under the stress, under the identity, under the endless self-talk. It remains. And every time you return to stillness, without trying to conquer it. You are stepping back into the oldest sanctuary there is, the quiet in which the light first learned how to shine. The divine feminine has been buried under distortion for so long that many people do not know how to hear her without filters. Some reduce her to softness without strength. Others turn her into sentiment, decoration, or vague symbolism. But primordial feminine reality is not fragile. Barbelo is not a spiritual accessory. She is generative intelligence, holy spaciousness, luminous receptivity, and the original field through which divine life could become manifest without violence. The modern world respects domination more than receptivity because domination is easier for the wounded ego to imitate. Control looks powerful, aggression looks decisive, performance looks important, but Barbelo reveals a deeper order. The highest powers are often subtle, containing, fertile, and still. They do not need spectacle to prove themselves. They hold worlds without strain. They create room for being without coercion. This is why the false self misunderstands surrender. It associates openness with vulnerability in the most fearful sense. It hears trust as danger. It hears tenderness as weakness. But spiritual maturity reveals the opposite. It takes far more strength to remain open than to remain armored. It takes far more power to receive truth than to defend illusion. The hardened self looks strong until it collapses under the weight of what it is hiding. Many people are starving for the divine feminine without realizing it. They are not merely seeking balance between masculine and feminine energies in a trendy sense. They are aching for a lost experience of divine interiority, for a holiness that feels intimate rather than distant, holding rather than condemning, wise without being cold. They are looking for the mother field that allows the soul to soften without disappearing. Barbelo heals the split between transcendence and closeness. She is not only cosmic vastness, she is also the felt sense of being received by the light that made you. She reveals that true holiness is not always stern distance. Sometimes it is the quiet certainty that beneath your confusion, beneath your mistakes, beneath the years of forgetting, there remains a living place in God where you are not rejected. This is not permission for laziness or self-indulgence. Divine tenderness is not indulgent. It is honest. It does not flatter the ego. It does not support illusion. It does not help you hide. The love of Barbelo is not weak because it refuses falsehood. It receives essence and burns away distortion. That is why contact with the Divine Mother can feel both comforting and severe. She soothes what is wounded, but she does not negotiate with what is false. For this chapter, practice sacred permission. Sit for 1 minute without trying to improve yourself, solve yourself, or spiritually impress yourself. Let the shoulders drop. Let the breath be ordinary. Inwardly say, I do not need to perform to be received by the light. Again, I do not need to perform to be received by the light. Let this land deeper than thought. Let it touch the exhausted places. The world taught you that only force matters. Barbelo teaches you that what receives can be greater than what pushes. What contains can be greater than what dominates. What silently nourishes can outlast what loudly controls. The divine feminine was never weakness. It was the power the false world could not imitate without exposing its own emptiness. Spiritual exile is not only an idea. It is felt in the body. It shows up in the tight jaw, the racing thoughts, the clenched chest, the shallow breath, the constant low-grade fatigue, the inability to fully rest, the strange sadness that appears even when life looks acceptable from the outside. Much of what people call ordinary stress is deeper than they think. Sometimes it is the body carrying the memory of separation. The soul does not float above incarnation untouched by it. Your nervous system records fear. Your muscles record defense. Your breath records the history of how safe or unsafe it has felt to be present. The body becomes the stage on which spiritual forgetting plays itself out. This is why awakening cannot remain abstract. It must descend into embodiment. The light must be felt, not just admired. Many traditions have tried to escape the body because they mistook matter for the problem. But the body is not the enemy. The body under distortion can feel like a cage, yes, but the body in remembrance becomes a temple. It becomes a place where the spark can be stabilized, where the breath can become prayer, where presence can become cellular rather than conceptual. Barbelo is not only above you, she can be welcomed into the whole field of your being. When the inner light begins to touch the body, healing often starts quietly. A little more spaciousness in the chest, a little more softness in the face, a little less panic in the bloodstream, a little less compulsion to abandon the present moment. These are not small things. They are signs that the false architecture is loosening. The body is learning that it does not have to live forever in emergency. This is also why stillness matters so much. Stillness gives the body time to stop bracing. It gives buried tension the chance to reveal itself. It lets the soul's deeper rhythm begin to regulate what the world has overclocked. The machine wants you overstimulated because overstimulation keeps you externally dependent. Stillness returns authority to the inner sanctuary. Try a simple embodiment practice now. Imagine a stream of light descending through the crown, while another quiet warmth rises from the center of your chest. See if you can feel those two movements meeting in the heart. Not dramatically, not theatrically, just gently. A descending grace and a rising remembrance meeting in one interior chamber. Rest your attention there for a few breaths. As you stay with that heart center, let the body hear this truth. I do not need to leave my body to find the sacred. Say it slowly inwardly. I do not need to leave my body to find the sacred. This matters because many people have spent years unconsciously fleeing themselves in the name of transcendence. Real awakening does not make you less incarnate. It makes your incarnation more truthful. The spark was never meant to remain buried under tension and imitation. It was meant to illuminate your eyes, your voice, your choices, your presence, your daily life. The body does not have to remain a fortress for the false self. It can become a lamp for the soul. And when that begins, even in small ways, you stop relating to your life as a sentence and start experiencing it as a vessel for light. Touching Barbelo in stillness means very little if nothing in your life begins to change. Real contact with the sacred alters texture. It changes how you speak, how you react, how you carry tension, how you move through conflict, how easily you are manipulated by false urgency. The point of awakening is not to collect intense moments. It is to become a clearer mirror of what is true. To live as a mirror means you stop trying to be the center of reality and start becoming transparent to it. You are no longer organizing every experience around ego maintenance. You begin asking different questions. Not, how do I protect the image? Not, how do I win this performance? But, What reflects truth here? What restores alignment here? What would the first light look like in this moment? This is where many spiritual paths quietly fail. They provide interesting experiences, but do not dismantle vanity. They provide comforting language, but do not expose self-deception. A person feels mystical for an hour and remains reactive, manipulative, hungry for status, and easily triggered the rest of the week. That is not embodiment. That is visitation without integration. The mirror is still covered. If your spirituality makes you more inflated, more fragile, more superior, or more addicted to being perceived as awakened, then the ego has simply adapted. Barbelo does not produce spiritual theatre. She produces spaciousness, honesty, mercy, clarity, and a steadier nervous system. The presence of the Divine Mother makes a person harder to rattle and harder to deceive because they are no longer desperate for outer reinforcement. This is one reason counterfeit systems hate true stillness. A person grounded in the inner light becomes difficult to manipulate. They are less seduced by panic, less seduced by noise, less seduced by the endless demand to define themselves through reaction. Their presence begins to change rooms, not because they are performing holiness, but because coherence has a quiet authority. Chaos cannot imitate for long. Living as a mirror also means bringing this remembrance into ordinary moments, into conversations, into your work, into traffic, into fatigue, into disappointment, into beauty, into grief. The path is not only for isolated spiritual experiences, it is for the slow transformation of perception itself. You begin to carry a different field, and over time, others feel it even when you say nothing. Use a micro-return practice throughout the day. Stop for one full breath, unclench the jaw, relax the tongue, soften the chest. Inwardly say, "Return me to the first light." Then continue. This takes only seconds, but done repeatedly, it weakens fragmentation and strengthens remembrance. It teaches the body and mind that return is not reserved for perfect moments. It is available now. The awakened life is not about becoming less human. It is about becoming less false, less divided, less ruled by imitation. You do not vanish when you become a mirror. You become more yourself than you have been in years, because what is finally being expressed is no longer only defense, performance, and inherited distortion. It is essence, and essence reflects the pleroma far more clearly than the false self ever could. The journey back to Barbelo is not a journey towards something foreign. It is a return through what is false to what was always nearest. You did not come into this life to perfect the mask. You came to awaken through it, to let the mirror remember what it reflects, to let the spark remember the flame from which it came. The great paradox is that individuality was not a mistake. The one desired to know itself through countless living perspectives. Through your eyes, your life, your particular angle of awareness, something intimate becomes possible. But the lens was never meant to forget the light completely. This world became painful because the role forgot the source and the self forgot the silence beneath itself. That forgetting is what modern life exploits. It feeds the ego endless noise, comparison, stimulation, and fear, then calls the resulting fragmentation normal. But no amount of noise will cure homesickness for the pleroma. No outer structure can replace the holy interior remembrance of Source. The return begins when you stop bargaining with illusion and allow the false self to loosen. And for those of you who want the full inner map of how consciousness fragments, descends, remembers, and returns, I strongly recommend my book, The Gnostic Hierarchy of Consciousness, The Hidden Architecture of the Soul. It goes much deeper into the structure behind everything we have touched in this video. Now let the face soften, let the shoulders drop, let the breath lengthen without force. Imagine a vast maternal field of living light surrounding you from all sides, gentle, intelligent, and full of peace. Let that light move through the crown, through the chest, and settle in the heart like a quiet sun. And as you breathe, receive these words slowly. I surrender what was never truly me. I am held within the infinite light of Barbelo. The spark within me remembers its source. I return to the silence before fear. I return to the light before thought. I am not separate. I am held within the pleroma. Now remain here. No striving, no analyzing, no forcing. Just breathe and be received. And for the remainder of this video, sit in stillness, resting in the light of the Divine Mother, resting in the silence of the monad, resting in the quiet remembrance that you were never as separate as this world taught you to believe.